The way I am in my calls, it's the way I am with my friends. It's the way I am if I'm in a new place and I don't know anyone and I go sit downstairs at a bar and I want to make friends and meet people. Sometimes maybe I'm a lot, but I want to be as candid as possible. I want people to know, hey, I'm talking to a real person. I'm not talking to this person who has a 20-point checklist that they have to mark off to try to get to the sales pitch, right? I am the sales pitch.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the STR Investing Podcast. I am your co-host Mark Lumpkin, and this week I have the privilege and honor of being joined by none other than Jack Roberts, who is obviously a member of the STR Cribs team. However, putting that aside, she's a stone cold killer. She has a great background and history in the short-term rental space, and we're going to learn from her today. And so, Jack, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm so excited to be here. You guys, I'm Jack. I've been in the interior design space for going on 14 years now. My background's in high-end residential, hospitality, and short-term rentals. I spent the beginning of my career working in new home construction and design development across that space. So it's been really incredible to keep raising the bar, right? We get bored. We want bigger projects, more exciting projects. And where else would you find the most exciting projects than in the best short-term rentals ever here at STR Cribs? It's perfect.
I love it. That's awesome. So Jack, let's start by just diving into your background, because you touched on doing a lot of stuff. New home sales, design. I think you worked with Forehands, who's a really known vendor in this space. Like, how did you get started? Just give us a little background that, like, what led you into the short-term rental space?
Yeah, so let's start at the very beginning, right? I never intended, right? When I graduated from high school, I never thought, oh, I want to be a designer. Oh, I want to work in short-term rentals. I actually went to school for science. I wanted to be a doctor, very typical cookie cutter. I got through my first couple of years. And then once you started getting into the nitty-gritty of the degree, I said, oh, this isn't going to work out for me. This is not right. So I took some time off, and of course I got a little bored. So I went to the local community college at the time, Seminole State in Florida, and I took what I thought would just be, like underwater basket weaving courses to entertain me. They happened to be design courses. I fell in love with it. The rest is history. Short-term rental design fell into my lap. I didn't know it was a thing, right? The beginning of my career, it was high-end residential, it was hotels. We were in this interesting time period where budgets weren't as big as they always were. We were in the early 20-teens. It wasn't as exciting as a lot of my mentors who could tell me, oh my gosh, in the early 2000s, in the 90s, we were doing incredible projects where we were bringing in so much wrought iron for these crazy spiral staircases and doing the craziest projects in Miami, and nobody cared about budget, right? It was just a different time, and I was looking for something that was a bit more exciting, that still felt very close to the end user and really that humanistic experience that you get through great design, of it feeling good and being welcoming and being visually exciting. And it just worked out, right? So I started in 2019 at a firm for STRs that's now defunct, and then worked at actually STR Cribs' competitor before I got to this point.
It's a super cool background, very interesting, and it's fun that you're able to see all the different aspects of this, right? You're able to see the new construction, the high-end stuff, the low-end budget stuff, and kind of figure out where your niche was, and having a lot of different experience definitely helps in any environment, sales specifically, right?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, we should talk about this maybe backwards a little bit. Normally we talk a lot about short-term rentals, but I feel like you are one of the experts at sales just in general, and we could probably drop you in the middle of the Arctic and you could sell snow to Eskimos. And so if you wouldn't mind, can we start just diving into what got you excited about sales, what you learned along the way? And I'd love to just have a sales conversation for a little while.
Well, absolutely. I mean, to be super self-serving, one of my favorite parts about sales is the instant gratification, right? Even if you don't get a contract right away, you see the light bulb go off. I think there's something so validating in having a conversation with someone, and they go from being stone cold in the face, not knowing what to expect in the conversation, to, oh my gosh, yeah, oh my gosh, this sounds great. You see the light bulb go off and you're like, oh, I'm incredible. I could fly, right? So I love that part of sales. Also, I like listening to people, communicating. I think what's really so limitless about what we do is you can sell anything to anyone. Now, I feel super blessed because I love what I sell. I love interior design and built experiences, and I happen to have been in this world my entire career. But if someone's willing to take a call with you and willing to listen to you for any given period of time, you can find a need. So as you get talking and you're having the conversation, right? Sometimes pain points naturally come up. Sometimes people don't intend to spill all the beans and tell you what they're not happy with or what they wish another vendor could do better. But through building rapport, you figure it out and you can touch those pain points and you can make things happen. So it's just very exciting.
Yeah, you got to make a friend. You got to get somebody talking, because you can't sell something to someone who won't communicate with you. And so really, I think the trick and what you're really good at is getting people to feel comfortable and then being able to open up and being like, you can't be fake. People can sense if you're being fake. You have to be genuine and real and find that common ground. And so how have you, like, what kind of, I guess, skills or things do you focus on in a conversation to start to break down those barriers that people have? Because every potential client comes into a call with a salesperson with walls up and defenses up, and they don't want to tell you this, don't want to tell you that, because they think that it'll hurt them. If it's quite the opposite, it'll actually help them because you'll find a solution for them. But how do you start to break down those barriers, and what have you found to work?
So, the first thing, I think a lot of it is personality. The way I am in my calls, it's the way I am with my friends. It's the way I am if I'm in a new place and I don't know anyone and I go sit downstairs at a bar and I want to make friends and meet people. Like, sometimes maybe I'm a lot, but I want to be as candid as possible. I want people to know, hey, I'm talking to a real person. I'm not talking to this person who has a 20-point checklist that they have to mark off to try to get to the sales pitch, right? I am the sales pitch. The other thing is knowledge is power. I think sometimes it's nice going into sales environments thinking about the whole picture, not just the company I represent, right? So although I know I'm here selling for STR Cribs, I want to give this client like the inside scoop. Sometimes I want to tell them, hey, even if you're not doing XYZ with STR Cribs, or maybe it's something that we don't offer or we don't do, I suggest for your greater good, for your property, for your revenue, for your guests, for you personally, you should do ABC, right? So I think knowing where to give input, giving them the whole story, not just the STR Crib story, and letting people know that you care about them. Like, I think, sometimes you see conflicting sides in the sales universe where you have some salespeople who maybe don't care so much about the person they're talking to. They're just trying to get a contract signed. I really care about people in general, my friends, people who live near me, my community. I think in life, human relationships are everything. Like, it's really what matters the most. So if I can make sure people feel cared for, they're getting the great service, even when I send the recap emails, like sometimes I'm going to over-explain, or I'm going to give them like a few more pictures than they asked for, throw in some videos or some fun things just to help support them and help create the full picture. Because I know those little points, that can be the difference. If people are talking to me and then going and talking to 3 other companies and they're not getting the whole picture, or they're not getting as much as what we gave them, right? People are going to feel more inclined to want to break bread with the person who's making more time and space for them.
Agreed, 100%. You said something really powerful, which is I am the sales pitch. I love that. I am the sales pitch. And I'm gonna say give my background on how I realized that as well. But I would love to hear your story about how you what clicked with you when you realized, oh, I'm the sales pitch. It's not the company. I'm not selling this water. This is Jack with the water that makes you no longer thirsty, right? And for me, it was actually I was selling cars when I was pretty young, and there was a guy named Tom who was a cowboy, and he was real. And we were selling like high-end luxury vehicles. And he showed up to work every single day with a cowboy hat and Wrangler boots and Wrangler jeans, and he was the cowboy. And people are like, oh, I'm going to go buy a brand new $100,000 Volvo from Tom the Cowboy. And they love that. The rest of us were in like suits and da-da-da. We all were like just towing the company line. We were all kind of just milk toast. But he was original and authentic and real, and he was himself.
Yep.
And I saw that and went, hang on a second here. I'm not the guy to wear a suit. I'm a guy with tattoos and a beard and da-da-da-da. That's who I am. So I need to be who I am and quit putting on a facade for these people because it's working for Tom the Cowboy, so it has to work for me. So that's how I realized that, where that light bulb turned on. When did it turn on for you that you realized that, hey, I'm Jack, I am the product?
Yeah, I mean, super early on, kind of in two phases. So one of my first design jobs, I was working for an architect slash commercial designer, and I was just designing. So at that point in my career, I was not trying to be a salesperson. I think my mindset back then was that sales is icky, the word is gross, and I don't want to be a manipulator and a persuader, right? And my principal at the time started bringing me into big client meetings. He'd say, you know, so-and-so, the last client we met with, they really like your personality. So I want you to now come to these other pitches with us when we go and do a business development. And then after that, I had started working at a home builder in Central Florida. And I was overseeing the design studio. And it was a smaller builder at the time. So my showroom was situated in the garage of one of the model homes. So I would be there all day, every day, when clients would come and walk the properties and deciding if they wanted to purchase a home with us, and they would meet with one of our realtors. And at the time, one of our new home sales agents said, Jack, people really enjoy coming back and talking to you about options and cabinets and countertops and all of these things. They're signing a deal for the property so that they can work with you through the design process, right? So I think just being real, being myself, wanting to connect, it's always helped.
You said one other thing that I want to unpack, which is that you look to add extra value, even if it's at your detriment at the beginning when you're working with someone. So whether that's extra insights, hey, maybe this isn't the best fit for you. Hey, I would do that if I were you. Where did you kind of get that mentality of putting yourself in their shoes and really genuinely trying to help them solve their problem, even if that means they don't work with you? And I've heard you say that before. Like, even if we shake hands and part friends, guys, these are the things I think you need to do in order to be successful. To me, when I knew you had that mindset, that was a no-brainer for us to get you. But how has that worked out for you? How did that come about? And talk us through the success of that.
Yeah, I think people enjoy the authenticity because a lot of people assume when they get on a sales call, they're going to get a hard sell. It's going to be hard. They're going to have to stave people off. Don't communicate with me anymore. Don't send me any more emails. I'm so scared of, human communication. And I have found, and this is an interesting take, that certain situations, and I'm sure you've come across this as well, you've met with people and you've thought, we're not the right service for you in any position. What I'm selling is not right for you. So I'm going to be honest that it's not right for you. I'm telling you, Mark, every time I'm passionate about telling someone, these are the reasons why I don't think we're a fit for you, they come back at me even harder. They're going to figure out a way to make it work. They're almost thinking, this woman has the nerve to tell me she's not right for us. No, she is right for us, right? There's some kind of psychology there, I believe. And if you can just lay all the cards out with people and let them decide and let them know you're here for the journey as you make these decisions, they love having someone to lean on who they don't think is going to grift them.
I think the problem is you get a lot of salespeople that become yes men, and they just want to tell people yes because they think that is the path to a sale, when it's actually the opposite. You have to tell people, no, that this is our service, this is our solution, this is what we offer. And if it's not a good fit for you today, that doesn't mean it's not a good fit for you in the future. I still want to become friends with you and help you the best I can. But people can feel that authenticity. And a lot of times it's amazing how people will breathe a sigh of relief and they're like, oh, thank God. Thank you for telling me no. Thank you for telling me I shouldn't buy this house because it has structural issues on the side of the mountain when everyone else told me just close it and just buy the house. Yes. It's like, no, you've got some major problems here with this property. And they're like, the last contractor would have just said, oh, here's a bid to fix it, and we could fix it. And so we get to approach things a little bit differently with our culture. So I love that. Going into the selling of the STR space, right? Which is what you're an expert at. Selling design, furniture, decor, construction, all that fun kind of stuff. How do you see that as different from potentially other things that you've sold in the past?
Oh, goodness, that is a great question. I mean, it's so different because short-term rental sales, it's about helping someone create a vision and create a world from scratch, right? I don't think there are many times when selling basic design that you have to think of so many facets, right? It's not just, oh, is it beautiful? And then it's also not just, is everything comfortable? It's the durability, the wearability, thinking about the exact demographic of who's going to occupy this property and how can we make sure we're servicing them the best before we've ever met them, before we even know what your bookings are going to look like. Like I feel like there's so much foresight that we have to have in this business, and being able to give clients and homeowners the assurance that we've done this so many times, right? When people do this for the first time, it's never perfect, right? You learn through trial and error. Let us take away the error part for you, right? We know what's going to get the bad reviews. We know what's going to happen, right? Let's design and work around that. So I think that's really helpful. Also, sometimes what's great for short-term rental design isn't personally what we would want in our own home. I know if I lived in an STR property, I'd have to wake up and wear sunglasses the moment I opened my eyes, right? But we know it's going to perform, and I think it's two different schools of thought, what we think is traditionally beautiful versus what provides this experiential kind of design for a short-term rental.
Definitely. It's definitely a totally different experience, and I love that you're talking about the long-term thinking. What's down the road? We're not just solving a problem today, we're solving a problem for years to come. And you're also not the client, which is a kind of an unusual thing, right? In most sales roles, you are directly dealing with the person that is the user of the product that you're selling.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with homeowners, and we have a lot of property managers and co-hosts and people like that listen to this podcast. It's the same type of deal, right? They're dealing with the owner of the property who they have to sell, but that's not actually the client, because you're going to be servicing the guests in the near future, and you're going to be dealing with them a vast majority of the time. So it's a very interesting dynamic. What would you say some of the hardest things are that you've had to sell around or overcome specifically in selling this product?
I think, oftentimes it's the property, right? Sometimes client may purchase a property that they think, oh, this is a fabulous investment, this is a great move. And then you look at it from the perspective of an STR, and there are just so many reasons why it doesn't work, right? There are so many things that you have to add. You look at the inspection report, you're like, okay, look, the budget's going up, things are getting more difficult. Sometimes that can be hard to work around. That's why, I always advise, if you can have a professional help you acquire and match with your property, that's incredible. That's going to help, mitigate a lot of roadblocks that you could potentially have in the process.
For sure. It's really hard, almost impossible to outbuild a bad property, right? If you've got the wrong location, if you're 45 minutes from town, but all the other comps are 15 or 10 minutes from town, oftentimes we get people that come in and think, hey, field of dreams, I'll build it and they will come. There is an element to that, but it's not everything. And so that individual asset itself, where it's located, how much square footage it has, the layout of the property, the backyard space, the permitting requirements, the setbacks, the easements, there's so many things that you got to think about on day one. So I love that. When people start off with the wrong asset, it makes it really difficult to create a great property. So diving into your travel experience, because I know you are a world traveler and you've been lots of places and you are continuing to go lots of places. Has that kind of helped inspire the creativity and your passion for being in the STR space? Do they go hand in hand? Talk me through that.
I get inspired from so many different things. I'd say with STR specifically, I pull a lot of my direct STR inspiration from US based STRs. Oftentimes when you travel overseas, things are a bit different. Sometimes if you're in a big vacation group, you can come across some cool properties. But I gotta tell ya, I feel like nobody really does it like the US does it when it comes to STRs. Now, there's a YouTuber who I love. His name's Ryan Trahan. He's so fun because he regularly does these kind of top Airbnb experience videos, and he pulls out the most interesting, unique, crazy off-the-wall properties and brings light to them, right? So Shrek's Swamp, Airbnbs made out of completely out of 6 shipping containers, just the craziest things. So it's always fun to see that and explore what's new. But also just from a general travel perspective, even staying in great hotels is really a nice way to understand, okay, just from a hospitality perspective, what's going on with guest service? How do we need to up our game? What's the next best thing in mattresses, in shampoos, conditioners? What kind of welcoming amenities are we giving people, right? I think all of it really helps.
Agreed, 100%. I'm glad you brought that up because it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be staying at a short-term rental. Any type of travel, any type of hospitality gives you real world firsthand vision to what's working. And really it's like eating your own cake. You got to taste this stuff out. You got to try it and you've got to see what you like and what you don't like. And so that's really cool. And when you travel, or do you usually stay in hotels? Because you're usually either traveling with group friends, solo travel. How do you like to travel?
You know what? I'm a big hotel girl. So certain groups, and if I'm by myself, I'm definitely going to get a hotel just because, Mark, I need someone who's available at my beck and call. I need room service. I need those things to survive. But if, other group trips, especially if it's more outdoorsy, depending on the focus, we will stay at a lot of Airbnbs as well. But I like a hotel too.
I love it. I love that. We're going to have short-term rentals are going to have robots in the near future. We're going to have humanoid robots. And so they will be at your beck and call, Jack, and then you can stay in some short-term rentals and have the Optimus robot go get go make your coffee and clean up the towels and do all that for you.
Yes, and he can also, protection mode. Oh, someone's at the door, go handle that. That's exactly what I need too.
Definitely. I love that. In your travels, have you found a market that's your favorite? Like when you're looking at all these different properties all across the country, you've seen all these finished homes, you've really got some great insight to what's working and what's not working for people. Is there a market that you lean towards and you're like, this is near and dear to my heart. I love when people are buying properties out here.
I love Northern California. I love Northern California so much. I wouldn't live there, but there's just something about these expansive properties on huge strips of land where they have the vineyards, they have the wineries, the homes are absolutely gorgeous, very unique. It's so romantic. I mean, just impeccable properties. I like that. I really love when a property is right next door to a vibe, to an experience. I also happen to consume quite a bit of wine, so that works really well for me. But whether it's near a theme park or, great outdoor amenities, attractions like that, I think those are the most fun.
I love that. I didn't know you were a wine drinker, so I learned a little something about you on this podcast.
Yes.
It's wonderful. Where does it go from here? Where does the short-term rental industry, because obviously the last 4 or 5 years have been crazy. We call it the amenities arms race. Do we keep going? Does it change? What's your prediction of what the short-term rental space looks like in the next 3 or 4 years?
Absolutely. I think it will probably be the same concept of how do we adapt and create something that's great for the guest. However, it's quite obvious that most likely the guest needs are going to change. So I think it will be interesting to look at the trends of what guests desire and how those switch up over the next few years and how we can re-up properties and how we can readjust. And that's something that I think is really incredible about short-term rental design, and I have quite a bit of experience in hotel design. What STRs have that hotels don't is the ability to pivot quickly and be incredibly resilient, right? I mean, the time it takes to undertake a project and, retrofit a 150 suite hotel is outrageously lengthy in comparison to how we can redo STRs and make it better for the guest. So not sure what direction that's going to be yet, but I know when the trends start to show, we'll be the first people on top of providing that better product.
We definitely will be. I love that. You're right. STRs allow you to pivot quickly, and it's almost impossible to re-outfit a hotel. You know, those hotels look how they did when they were built in 1995. It's still the same hotel, still the same beds, still the same wallpaper, and you see a huge jump in new hotels, right? New hospitality always comes out. Same thing with a restaurant. Restaurants come out the gate and they crush it for the first couple of years, and then they slowly start to die just as the trends have changed and guests get a little bit of fatigue and burnout on the product that you're offering. And so a rebrand is really, it's feasible and it's more cost effective with a short-term rental. And you can say, hey, and what I love too is you actually will get your historic data as well. You'll see, hey, over the last 3 or 4 years, we're starting to see more and more families traveling to this market. Probably need to rebrand this thing, do an update on a refresh and things like that. And so what are your thoughts around doing refreshes, and how have you helped clients figure out ways to take bad Airbnbs and make them great?
My first word on that, if you take the time and you invest and you design the Airbnb very well the first time, when it comes time to refresh, you're going to be in a way better position because you're going to have good quality furniture. You're going to have good bones. There's going to be items that you can probably repurpose. Okay. You can add into another color scheme. You can switch it up and you still have that foundation. Then if you're starting with something that isn't as substantial, isn't as well designed and thought out, right? When you think about a refresh, it's almost like you're starting completely over if your original product didn't really last the test of time. I think also with refreshes, it's understanding, yeah, I'd love to change things up because it'll look better, but sometimes changing up the things you think needs to be changed isn't going to really affect your ROI, right? I think sometimes we meet with a lot of people who they say, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. I got this home. I thought I did the right thing and I did a $150,000 renovation and look how sleek and sexy my bathrooms are, but my revenue still stinks, right? So it's making sure you're talking to a professional who can help you understand where it makes sense to invest and refresh the property.
You can't just spend money for the sake of spending money. You have to be strategic, you have to be smart, you have to understand where the value add is for it to be a short-term rental.
Yes.
So, cool. You ready for some rapid fire questions?
Gosh, yes.
All right. Favorite destination you've been to recently that people need to put on their map? Could be international, could be locally, could be somewhere you're about to go to, but what's a great spot we all need to check out?
Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard, it's gorgeous. It has everything you could want. Great beaches, great wilderness, outdoor areas, trails, hiking, the freshest food, the best farmers market, everything. I mean, they have so much that's grown right there as well. Great nightlife, wonderful bars, shopping. It feels exclusive. It's very unique and fun. Love Martha's Vineyard.
Do we have to have our pinkies out when we're drinking wine in Martha's Vineyard?
Maybe a couple times. It depends on the atmosphere, Mark.
I love it. All right. Favorite book, audio, written book, something that you've read that you think just is going to add a whole bunch of value to our listeners' lives.
Oh my goodness. Favorite book. There are so many. I will say right now, my favorite book is by a comedian. Her name is Chelsea Devontes. It's called I Shouldn't Be Telling You This, But I Am. And essentially it walks you through her entire life. It's like a memoir of how you can start from having nothing, being nowhere, feeling like nobody, to creating a life, creating a product, a vision, a pitch, right? To get you where you want to be and how you can achieve it and how it can be as accessible as you want it to be for any career path.
I love that. I'm putting it on my list. So, Jack, how do people find you?
My goodness, you can find me on Instagram at Jack Roberts, all consonants, no syllables. You can also find me on the homepage of strcribs.com. You want to book a call? That's my direct calendar right there.
Yes, you can. There you go. Okay, Jack, we'll drop your socials in the channel. Everybody knows how to find STR Cribs, but we'll drop that in the show notes as well. Thanks for coming on. Super excited to have you as part of our team. Thank you for being on the STR Investing Podcast and sharing some of your insights and wisdom over the last few years. And I'm sure we'll run it back and do it again.
Absolutely. Thanks. This was so fun.